Alright, back with another video, and this week coming at you from a special location, the Trainer. Got a 2.5 hour endurance ride on Trainer Road. Don't remember which one it is, but decided I'm gonna tackle two things at once for some time efficiency. A little ironic because I took a nap after work, but here we are. So today we're talking about the second week of the King's Crit, Cat 3-4, near Mason, Ohio. And this week was definitely different than last week. Last week I felt great. It felt easy. This week felt the opposite. My only excuse is maybe a couple excuses. First one is that I got my second vaccine shot on Friday and this race was on Sunday. Felt pretty achy Friday mornings, or Friday night, Saturday morning. But felt better as the day went on. And Saturday afternoon, it was so beautiful out. Decided to go for a ride, and found out that I was feeling pretty weak. I still ended up going for about 2.5 hours, about 45 miles, but took the power down by about 20 watts lower than I was expecting to, just based on how I was feeling. So I didn't have the highest expectations for today, but after last week coming so close to getting in the points on several of the sprints, this week I really my only goal was to get some points, which again is maybe not the best attitude. The best attitude is always to win, but really just wanted to get some points. But just felt pretty terrible the whole time, and my peak power, my sort of acceleration just wasn't there. So quick summary of this race. It was very nice out. Maybe high 60s around the start, probably mid 70s by the time we finished. High of about 80 on the day. Very light wind at the start of the race. I think it picked up as the race went on, but it's definitely different than last week. Last week, if there was any wind, I spent so little time in the wind that I couldn't really tell you. But if there was, it was on this back straight, maybe a headwind, slight headwind. This week, it was on the front straight, which means that sprint for those points, it's harder. It's harder than it is without that headwind, that's for sure. It makes it longer. It makes the strategy that you need to take different. And it makes it so that really the person with the highest power comes away with the win. You don't get so much of the advantage. You do get more of an advantage when you're slipstreaming, but then coming around with the headwind is way, way harder. It just doesn't work. So this week we had a team that wasn't there last week. I don't know, I can't remember what they're called, but they're this purple kit sponsored by Cat. I think they're mostly from Kentucky. Raced with them before, and they're very good. A lot of respect for them. They're good riders. And compared to last week, there were a lot fewer of the Brilliant Advice riders, maybe about half as many. But the field size overall was, I think, a couple more people. I believe the total field size was about 40 this week. And Our average speed was a bit faster, depending on what source you look at. Last week we averaged about 25. This week somewhere between 25.2 and 25.5. For some reason, depending on where you look, even within this, looking within my own data, you get a different average, but a little bit faster. My average power was maybe a couple watts higher. My normalized power was about the same. So I felt terrible, and I would say my brain wasn't as good. There I just hit what appeared to be my peak power of the whole race. So I felt terrible, but the power was mostly there. But if you don't feel good, it makes it hard to really commit to things. Another thing going on right now is that usually I bike with a fan blowing on me, but I didn't want to screw up the audio, so I've got a fan sort of blowing, just like circulating the air in a closed room, and so I'm quickly getting sweaty here. So again, this week I've got my teammate Andy, and one of our other teammates, Connor Super. It's his first year racing. He joined the team this year, and he participated in the 4-5 race, his first race ever. He did really well. He won a couple sprints. He would have won the whole race, but his chain fell off for the last sprint, so he ended up coming in second. Luckily, it didn't fall off while he was at speed. It fell off out of a corner. A little issue with an incorrect chain length, which is interesting because his bike was in the shop for a long time. I think these shops are overwhelmed because my bike was also in the shop for a long time and came back with a flat tire. So there's Andy right in front of me. He actually, there was one preem in this race, and it was for a gift card for donuts in Cincinnati. I forget what the shop is called, but it's some popular shop in Cincinnati. And Andy went for it, got it. I decided to throw in my cadence for this video, almost for my own curiosity. But also you can get an idea of... Yeah, so there goes Andy, and I decided not to chase because he's my teammate. You can see, when we're doing high power like this, the cadence is way up there. I mean, 115 RPM. And that's not really even sprinting, right? That's just high power in the saddle. So this was the first sprint lap. Still, I was back there, but with the headwind, you can catch a lot of draft. So I made a lot of progress, but couldn't seal the deal. I believe that was 5th place again, and it did not get better from there. That was my best result, and actually one of my highest. Like 25 to 30 second powers ever. I believe my all-time best 30-second power is just over 800 watts at about 145 pounds. I'm weighing about that right now and had about 780 watts. those 30 seconds. So again, you know, just how you feel doesn't necessarily mean that that's how you're actually performing. I felt terrible, but you know, compared to past performances, the power's pretty good, yeah? Normalized power for the race was about 262 based on Trainer Road. My FT, and that's for what, 57 minutes about. My FTP is mid 270s, so that's a pretty hard race. And yeah, I can confirm that it felt really hard. I'm not the only one who came away saying that. On the left there was Nick. He competed in the Black Fork gravel race the day before. Got second in his age group. So very good result for him. Averaged over 220 watts for 3 hours, weighing less than 130 pounds on gravel, including walking up a hill that everybody walked up. So it's pretty impressive. I don't really remember what was going on here, but if I had to guess, it's just me, you know, giving some effort to chase back a little group that's trying to break away. So there was a group that broke away for, I would say, the majority of the race. There were 6 points laps, and they were broken away for probably 4 of them. I think they started with maybe 4 guys. A couple of people bridged at some point, I believe. And in the latter part of the race, I put in an effort along with some other people to bring him back once and for all. Man, we are less than 15 minutes into this, and I'm sweating. You know, this is good to remind me about how hard a race is. It's easy to look at the screen and say, oh, why didn't you follow that move? Why didn't you push harder? Or something like that. But, you know, I'm doing an endurance ride right now, which should be fairly easy and certain. You know, I took a day off yesterday, so legs are breaking in, and just reminds you it's not easy. I do like having this distraction of making the video, though, because I'm not looking down at the power. There goes Andy again. What a beast. Yeah, so Andy, I believe, is trying to bridge to a break up the road. Yeah, so there's the break. Andy got really close, but in the end he just couldn't quite bring it back. headphones are trying to slip off my head because of the sweat. So I will say that once again, I was marking people that I know. You know, I know to some extent their capabilities. I know to some extent their goals. But one of the problems with marking this person in particular is that their teammate was in the break. And so they had very, very limited incentive to chase. Their only incentive would be to provide support to their teammate and to get points themselves. However, the risk of trying to, let's say, bridge to the break is that he takes everybody with him and ruins it. And so, for the most part, he made the decision to stay back. So that made it more difficult for me. And to be honest, for most of the race, I was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. Ideally, I would be trying to bridge like Andy has. However, like I've said, my perception of my capability on that day was that I had none. I didn't trust my legs to get me there. You know, that begs the question, how do you make that decision? You know, because there's the risk that you go for it and you go so deep trying to catch the break, because bridging is pretty much the hardest thing you can do. So there's the risk that you don't make it and you blow yourself up, and that's your race. And I felt very, very susceptible to that. And so I pretty much made the decision that I was not going to go to close the break. There were plenty of opportunities, I would say, where the break was in catching distance. But I didn't want to go for it. I also wanted to limit my time on the front for the same reason. Had I taken more risk with even just sitting on the front, we could have brought the break back a lot sooner. There were a couple people who were putting in some work on the front fairly regularly, and had I included myself in that work, it would have been successful much more quickly. It was pretty obvious to me that it was never going to come together to catch the break. So I think that just shows a lack of the, goal is to win mentality. In a lot of races in the past, I'm really looking forward to them. It's something that I've train for specifically, specific crits. I'll train specifically for, taper for a week. And going into those, it's win at all costs. You still got to be smart, but if you make a dumb move, you put yourself out there, and you make it work however you have to. But don't have this mentality with this race. I don't know if part of that is because it's this points race, where there isn't a singular goal, right? There's a goal every 4 laps. So the mentality just feels different, maybe. And so with that, it's like, okay, I could bring the brake back, but then come, let's say 2 laps later or something, it's time to sprint, and I've totally cooked myself. And then off that sprint, another brake goes, and I'm still totally cooked. And I miss that. So with something planned every 4 laps, it becomes harder to really put yourself out there. Whereas with the normal crit, you race for 45 minutes to an hour in the 3-4 ranks, and if there's something going on in the middle, you can put in a big effort to fix it and still be fine by the time the end of the race comes. But in this case, the race is the whole time, so it's a more difficult decision. Okay, I've been sitting on the trainer for 23 minutes. It's time to stand up a little bit. It feels good. Alright guys, welcome to Mitchell's spin class. Remember, keep your butts back, engage your core. I have to say, one of the interesting things about going from I just got sweat on my computer, going from riding on the trainer to riding outside, over the summer, over the winter, riding on the trainer, is the lack of engagement in your upper body in both sprints and going uphill. Before I ever rode on the trainer, I loved climbing out of the saddle. It's just so comfortable. But the last few years I've been very diligent over the winter, doing my riding on the trainer, and you lose that engagement, and it takes a lot of time, for me at least, to get it back. Even though I've got a fairly strong upper body for a cyclist, it's a different way of using it. But it started to come back and feel really nice, and that's a good feeling for sure. Last week was pretty awesome, actually. Went to the group ride in New Albany on Thursday, and I I was planning to actually lead the C group. I've volunteered and been told it's my turn. The problem is that it basically rains every day, and so you don't know if people are going to show up, and there is no cancellation of the ride. So with me being obligated to lead the C group, I'm pretty much obligated to show up. So I showed up on Thursday. It was cold and raining. Nobody else showed up. Well, let's ride. And the result of that was setting a huge 2-hour power PR. 255 normalized, 252 average for 2 hours. Those are just about 20 watt PRs, which is pretty awesome. And I'll say that my lungs felt amazing, like never breathing hard. It's just the legs that get me. Hip flexor weakness and some issues with my left leg. It's like, man, if I got those sorted out so that I don't feel restricted, I wonder what I could really do for that sort of time span. Now, a race is totally different because your heart rate is kept so much higher because you're not doing steady state, right? You're coming out of this corner, you're doing 700 watts. So you're never going to be able to average that sort of power, relative to your FTP. But it was cool to see that. A winter of heavy sweet spot training. I was able to set a huge 20-minute PR of 292 watts for 20 minutes at the end of a 4x20 workout. And I was injured at that point, and that was it for a month. But we're back. We're back to where we were, and that feels good. This is one of those moments where you're like, what's going to happen? Is that guy going somewhere? These headphones are going to be so disgusting. So this might be where we start to do some work to bring the brake back. I don't really remember. Those two you just saw went by were not the brake. I think that's the brake right there. So this guy, for some reason, just keeps going straight. I'm like, what the hell is happening? Levi down from Finley gets on the front, lays it down. Now it's my turn. I'm like, yeah, we got people working together. This is awesome. And I'm doing my stint on my preferred section, which would be the uphill. I hate pedaling downhill. It just doesn't suit my legs. Start to inch over, just take the inside, and yeah, more teamwork going. The guy behind me says, hey, that's your teammate that just went by you. You know, you guys should just work together. I'm like, I mean, if you want to let my teammate go, that's fine. Be my guest. And I'm not going to work to close this gap because that's my teammate who, you know, they might be successful. If the gap's going to be closed, it's going to be closed by someone else. Sorry for any extraneous noises. It's me trying to keep the sweat out of various electronics. Alright, we're halfway done. More than halfway done. Look at that gap. Are attacking now, closing the gap. Works out for me. But that goes back to the decision of, like, in this case, sticking with my teammate to help chase the break, or giving my teammate the chance to get in the break with those two other people. You know, it's another decision. And I'm going to defer to giving my teammate the chance, because he deserves a chance. You know, it didn't work out, but it could have, right? So the break is still up. So I see that Andy is suffering his butt off. You know, once you're in the draft on this back straight, the power can remain pretty low, but you're just a few feet off that wheel, and it's almost like you're not getting a draft at all. You gotta do double the power that you would have had to. acceleration here. You know, there's just times when you can see people coming to the front with intent, and that's something you want to pay attention to. This guy's on the front, no doubt, doing some big watts. Uphill with some wind, it's not as hard a few wheels back, but the brake is still up, as you see. Now I decide to go for it, to put some effort in, because I feel like we've got a good group here of people who are ready to work. So I start digging. But it's hard to keep the power up when you're going this fast, at least for me. See, we've made a good dent in the gap already. Now we're coming up the hill. I'm going to continue pulling because I think it's time to end this thing. But you'll see shortly, someone tells me, take a breather. Which, looking at the power here, is probably a good move. You know, I'm surging, but he comes past me. And we're still moving. Let's go. Next person doesn't want to come past. And at this point, I feel like it's the appropriate time to put the effort in. We still got someone on the front willing to put in the effort. The problem is Ian in front of me here. So the guy in front's looking back. Hey, who's coming through? Well, not Ian, because his teammate's up there. So what are we supposed to do? But we're pretty close to the break at this point. So let's see what happens. I look at Ian. I see he's tense, he's looking back, he's accelerating, he's going. I'm like, alright, let's go. But I didn't have it. And Ian rides away. I was pretty cooked from my long pull, trying to bring back the brake. And Ian took really good advantage of that. That was exactly what I was afraid would happen. Didn't have it in me. In the end, though, I don't believe that was consequential as far as Ian getting away. I believe the brake was brought back before they could get any more points with Ian there. As you can see, we're pretty close. Time for some more standy stand. Keep your butt back. You know, that's how you ride outside, right? You keep your butt back as far as possible to be as inefficient as you can possibly be. Nice pull by this guy. All right, let's go. Time to close the gap once and for all. Come on, buddy. All right. We're there. The brake is back. You know, I couldn't tell you what was going on with them, but I can tell you that on my end, there was more effort given than in the rest of the race. And there was also effort given by some other people at the same time. So that was it for the break. So now it's back to how can I score some points? Except for I felt so terrible. Not sure what that was. It's just funny every once in a while. People just like misjudge the turn. It's like you just get caught up in the people in front of you and you don't quite see what's going on anymore. And you just get lost. Now that the brake is back, it's time for some more attacks. But I'm still trying to conserve as much as possible. Let other people chase. But at the same time, don't want to get caught in the situation from before where they get away. So mentality is a little bit different. And the threat has vanished. I just looked down at my workout. Really looks like I've done anything. And well, it's because I barely have. 2.5 hours, only 43 minutes in. Or 46 minutes in. Looks like we're in another sprint lap here. As you can see, I didn't have much to offer this time. Coming across the line. I believe I'm 5th again. It's my favorite position. In case you don't know, anything after 3rd place gets 0 points, so totally pointless. believe at this point this guy just continues riding. He just continues riding away. He's so calm while he's doing most likely pretty big watts. That's not someone up, by the way. It's a lapped rider. There's nobody away at this point. So actually in my head, I thought there were only like 10 or 12 riders left in the race, but I would find out before the end that, oh, there are at least 20, 25 people who made it to the end. So I was so focused on what was going on at the front that I didn't take time to look around and really assess the situation. And that was a huge, huge mistake for the last sprint, which we still got about 7 minutes till then. But it was a big mistake to not look around and take in what was going on around me. Now the reason that I was doing that, not the reason I didn't look around, but the reason I was up here, is because I was concerned about the quality of rider occupying the very front here. I thought they might be liable to go for a break. And I didn't want to miss out on that. So you can see that Andy went by there a little while ago in the lime green, or fluoro, and I'm not sure exactly what he was thinking, but you know, he either had some concern that the person who was ahead by 150, 100 feet or so was going to keep expanding his lead, and maybe at some point would actually really start to mash on it, and at that point we might be totally hopeless. You know, he could be gaining us this whole time, and as soon as we start to chase, he could start really trying. So my suspicion is that Andy did not want that to happen, and so he put in the effort to bring him back. I personally wasn't concerned. I felt at this point that if it came down to it, I would be able to personally bridge to him, and so I wasn't ready to put in that effort just yet. Oh man, I'm going to be going up a little bit in the power before this video is over. I might be huffing and puffing along with the me in the video. excited to drink some water in 4 minutes. So Ian's putting in a big effort right now to bring the guy back. And I feel like it's time as well. So I contribute, do a little pull. At this point, I'm waiting for people to come by. And here they come. Now Ian should be just on my shoulder here, trying to get me to get in front of him. He said something like, "Hey, I did all that work," and I'm like, "Huh? That's on you. I'll let him go. I don't care." Except, I wasn't quite aware of A, how absolutely destroyed I was at that moment, and B, how many freaking people there were left in this race. So they're blowing by me. So I made the big boy call out to Ian, no, you handle it, I'm good. And, oh boy, that was a bad decision. At this moment, I'm like, okay, I can get to the front, but when I get there, there's not going to be anything left. So let's see what happens. So they're kind of coasting. I put in a little bit more effort, past a couple people. But the front of the race is 100 feet ahead, and I've got nothing left. With no incentive to try, with no points outside of the top 5, I call it a day. Bring it on home. I'm ready for some water. Alright, thanks for listening. We'll see what happens next week.